Show you how to use the lambda function to create a new function. We're going to use lambda to create a compounded annual growth rate, or CAGR, function in Excel. So let's get started. Let's say we have this formula. CAGR is equal to the ending balance, the 3,000, divided by the beginning balance, 2,000, to the power of 1 over n. The number of years is 5 minus 1. And that will give us our compounded annual growth rate. So here's our formula kind of listed out in English maybe, and here it is in Excel. So let's do that really quickly. Let's show you what the answer would be. So we start our parentheses and do 3,000 divided by the 2,000. Close my parentheses and then do an exponent of 1 divided by the number of years, which is 5. And then all that, we subtract out 1 and we get 8.45%. So if you have a investment of 2,000 and in 5 years it grows to 3,000, you have received about an 8.45% annualized return. Now, each of those years was different. It wasn't 8.45. Some years you lost money if you look. Some years you made money. But that is what the compounded annual growth rate is. Now, if you want to calculate that all the time, there's other functions. I have full videos on down below that you can see on how to calculate compounded annual growth rate. But you might want to create your own function of CAGR just to make it really easy and everybody understands how to do it. So let's do a lambda function. Now, lambda function is a new function in Excel, came out in 2021, and really widespread use here in 2022. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take lambda and we're going to name 3 variables, N, BEG, and END, so beginning and ending, for the number of years beginning and ending. And then we're going to show the formula. We're using these variable names, ending divided by beginning, to the exponent, 1 divided by n minus 1. So we're going to define all that. Then we're going to back and show this, put those numbers in there. Now, we're going to show the lambda and then we're going to name it CAGR, so then we can use that. We've created our own function called CAGR. So let's do this for lambda. Lambda is an Excel function that lets us define parameters or calculations. So let's just do this. Let's do N and then BEG and then END. Now we want to define the formula. So I'm going to do 2 parentheses to get started. And then ending divided by beginning. Close the parentheses here to the exponent, 1 divided by n minus 1, and I need 2 parentheses to close that. 2 parentheses to close the n, minus 1, and then overall close that. I think we should get a correct answer, and so yes. So what we have a calculation error because it has the variable set up and it has the formula set up, but it has no numbers to put in for the formula. So you can do this, manage it this way, by showing in this order, N, beginning, and end. So we need to put in the 5, comma, the beginning, the 2,000, and the end of 3,000. Close our parentheses here, and we get 8.45%. Well, that seems to be more trouble than just using the simple formula. So we need to make one more step and make it easier on ourselves. We're going to create a function and call it CAGR. We've already created the function. Now we need to name this CAGR. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back and copy all this formula all the way through the parentheses before it hits all this bold here, before it hits the 3 numbers, the year, the beginning, and the ending. So I'm going to copy this. And then we're going to the formulas ribbon, define a name, and I'm going to define this as CAGR. This function is CAGR. And down here, I'm going to replace all this with all the formula. Okay, so now we've defined it. Now, one thing that's helpful is I'm going to go back and do a description. And what I did here, I just put on different lines. If you want to enter, you can do Command and enter or Control and enter and give it on 3 lines. So what I want to do is I want to show this. I'm going to copy go back to my formulas and define name. I'm going to do the name manager and edit. And with this comment here, I'm going to put in my description, my comments here. So what it says is I've got a named function now, KAGER, that I have defined. And here's what it does. And here's the formula here for this new function. So I'm going to hit OK. So now we can just use the function called KAGER. There is a function now called KAGER that we've defined. You see it shows this. There wasn't one before. We need to do the number of periods, comma, the beginning, comma, and the end, close the parentheses, and we get the 8.45%. So you can set aside a new function using Lambda, and now everybody that uses this spreadsheet now can use the KAGER function rather than trying to use the formula or maybe a more complex way. It's going to be easy for people to see what's going on. So let's test it on a new one here. So let's say we have returns. This is the S&P 500 for the Vanguard Index Fund for 14 years. I just did a simple count. I got 14. And using KAGER, the function, the formula here, I've got 10.9%. So let's use our new function, KAGER, so equals CAGR. You see, there it is. We're going to take the 14, comma, the beginning, comma, and the end, close the parentheses here, and we get 10.9%. So if you have a formula that you use a lot, then create a Lambda function on it, then name it, and that way you can use the formula. The more complex the formula, the easier this gets to be and a nice function to have. So Lambda is easier than you think, so I encourage you to try this and try your formulas in Lambda.